who was filled with, she was just so sweet and just amazing. And I began to realize that they did not have the same upbringing that I had, that they never had the opportunity to know that they were worthy of love, that they never heard anything great about what their ancestors did. And so my mother raised all 6 of us, and this is from my father, understanding the significant contributions in the real sense that women made to the world, that people of the African diaspora as a first world nation, I never saw myself in the third world or minority or insecure and all that stuff, and the significant contribution that Islam made to the world. So I grew up with a very solid sense of who I am. I loved me so much, my mother made sure of it, that we saw you as a reflection of us and vice versa. So if something was wrong with you, I could step in and do whatever I could, just as I would not want to experience the injustice, the inequity, and so forth. And so that is from my mother, that is from my father, and because of it, I've written those books to make sure that my father's legacy, that my mother safeguarded all this time, because we know the Malcolm that you learned about, in school or wherever you learned about him, is not the Malcolm that we know in his truth. Mm-hmm. So my mother as a young woman had to safeguard her husband's legacy because of all of these negative and horrible things that they said about him when Malcolm was a devout steward of God. He was working to get the boot off of everyone's neck. He believed in our humanity, right? And he believed that America should live up to her promise of liberty and justice for all of its citizens. So, and it is because of that love and because of that truth that I've continued, to do these books, to be an educator at college camp, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, going to that, working at that university. I was teaching like 3 or 4 subjects, and when I realized that these young people, like 10 years ago, thought that the civil rights movement, Dr. King, is because black people got tired of being disrespected, and so they marched. I decided that I was going to change my curriculum, and every single course, it was the same curriculum with a different title. And I just wanted to make sure, that they learned what real activism is, what humanity really is, what the truth of injustice is, that had it not been for those enslaved ancestors of ours, that no one today, American, would have the opportunity of calling the leader of the free world, the land of milk and honey, their home, because of our enslaved ancestors. So we're going to control the narrative and make sure that our young people have pride and understanding that it was because of our enslaved ancestors who were who were trafficked, held in bondage, and everything else. And in spite of that, they were able to make a significant contribution towards our culture, towards economics, towards everything. Economy.
I want to follow up with something, and I've heard you speak several times, Dr. King, and you talk about us serving, how we celebrate your father, how we quote your father. But do we live your father? And I want you to unpack that, because you also said that we quote what's convenient to extract the parts that align with our dreams. And I want you to unpack that for the audience.
Yeah, wow. So how do I start? My father has really been sanitized in so many different ways because he's not here. Those that are stewarding his legacy like me are doing our part, but I think people feel comfortable finding the parts of what he said to fit their agenda. Now let's be clear, because I know quickly most of us